You are not poor because you lack money. You are poor because there is an invisible operating system silently controlling the way you think, feel, and act around money. Throughout your life, you were never taught how to master finances from the inside out. You were only taught how to chase it from the outside in. But today, everything changes. This is the journey to awaken the wealthy self that has been asleep within you, not through hacks or short-term strategies, but through a profound liberation of the mind, of energy, and of action. Get ready, because what you are about to hear could alter the entire financial current of your life forever. Your mindset is the greatest barrier between you and wealth. There is nothing lacking in your ability except for the way you think about yourself and what you allow yourself to receive. Wealth has never disappeared from this world. It simply does not enter the life of someone who sits around waiting for a miracle to happen, unaware that their very mindset is what keeps the door closed. Mindset is not an abstract concept. It is a living structure you enter every day. It is the mental space you dwell in. If you do not change the room in your mind, you are merely rearranging furniture in a crumbling house. A poverty mindset is not found in your bank account. It is revealed in how you react when others succeed, in what you say when facing a great opportunity, in the shrinking feeling when you think about receiving more. Those with a poverty mindset live in a default state of lack. They rarely admit it, but it shows in their cautious eyes, their hesitant words, and their decisions that aim to survive rather than break through. When they see money, they see risk. When they hear about investing, they think of loss. When someone else succeeds, they assume it is luck. This is not their fault. It is the result of a mental operating system programmed long ago. And that is exactly why you must rewrite it. Not by willpower, but by conscious awareness and intentional adjustment of even the smallest reactions. Because the truth is, money does not choose kind people. It does not choose hardworking people. It does not choose those who sacrifice. Money chooses those whose inner space is ready to receive and manage it. And that space begins with mindset. If you still believe that money is the reward for sacrifice, you will keep sacrificing without ever seeing the reward. If you believe you should only receive just enough, you will always live within the boundaries of just enough. Mindset is the switch that triggers every reaction in reality. It determines how you see, how you choose, and how you take responsibility for yourself. A person with a wealthy mindset does not live in a perfect world. They simply refuse to live as a victim of circumstance. They are not always right, but they always act from the understanding that external results are reflections of internal states. When you change your mindset, you do not only change how you see the world, you change the vibrational structure that you radiate. And the law of response in the universe never fails. It knows no mercy, no achievements, no hopes. It only knows how to respond honestly to the frequency you emit most often. Look back at your recent decisions. Did you choose based on fear or belief? Did you delay because you were not ready? Or because you never truly believed you deserved it? Did you turn down an opportunity because you could not see success? Or because you did not believe you were worthy of it? Every answer leads back to the same point. Your mindset is running you, not the other way around. And when you do not control your mindset, you are being led by old thoughts programmed by others, by people who may have lived in scarcity, in fear, and in limitations they believed were safe. But you were not born to copy an old way of living. You were born to remember the freedom within, to challenge everything that was once considered certain, and to design your own map of life. Mindset is not just belief. It is a command to reality. When you send out a signal that you are not ready to receive more, the universe will withdraw what it was preparing to deliver. When you act as if you have nothing to give, you will have nothing to receive. And when you keep a small image of yourself, every big opportunity will pass you by like the wind slips through a half-closed window. You cannot have new results with old thinking. You cannot enter the space of mastery while still thinking like someone waiting for a miracle. And you certainly cannot attract wealth if you are still afraid to express your true value. Transformation does not begin when you have money. It begins when you admit this. I am carrying a model of thinking that no longer fits the person I am becoming, and I am ready to release it. Starting today, poverty programming is embedded deep within the subconscious from childhood. Have you ever wondered why? Every time you are about to do something bold for your life, a quiet voice inside your head whispers that you should be careful, that you should not be too ambitious, that you should know your place. That voice is not your reason. It is the echo of what you heard as a child. Harmless-sounding phrases like, "Money does not grow on trees. We cannot afford that. Be realistic," when repeated often enough, do not just pass through your ears. They take root in your subconscious and form an invisible belief that you cannot, should not, and must not dream bigger than those who came before you. This is not a coincidence. It is a form of programming. And the frightening truth is that most of us carry it through our entire lives without ever examining it. We think it is us. But no, it is someone else's voice living inside us. Let me ask you one thing, and I hope you pause for a few seconds to truly feel before you answer. Do you remember the first time in your life you felt ashamed for asking for something related to money? Was it when you asked your parents for a toy? Was it when you were told to be grateful just for having food on the table, instead of dreaming of something more? Maybe you forgot the details, but that emotion did not forget you. It still lives in you every time you prepare to name your true price to a client. Every time you step into a room where important decisions are made, every time you try to invest in yourself but your heart still clenches. We were not born with a poverty mindset. We were taught to limit ourselves in order to be accepted. And then the irony unfolds. As we grow older, we repeat that very program to ourselves without needing anyone to remind us. We live as though we are undeserving, as if wealth is a privilege meant for someone else, as if dreams are something that require permission. You do not need to blame anyone. Your parents were not wrong. Your teachers meant no harm. Society did not intend to hurt you. They were only repeating what they were taught by people who were also limited. But if you continue to live by that model, you are choosing to hold on to what should have been released a generation ago. Poverty programming is not just a thought. It is an automatic reaction system running from the depths of the subconscious. It makes you shrink when you need to stand tall. It makes you turn away from good opportunities, then justify it by saying the timing was not right. It makes you feel guilty when you start having more than those around you. It makes you live as if you are always in debt, always needing to apologize for wanting more. And that is the most solid barrier between you and true wealth. But no one is forcing you to keep an outdated operating system once you realize it no longer serves your new path. You have every right to rewrite the story. And rewriting it does not mean denying what happened. It simply means you choose not to let it run your life in silence anymore. The subconscious is the most fertile ground you will ever possess. The real question is, who is planting seeds in it? Every time you repeat a limiting phrase, you are sowing an old seed. But every time you choose a new thought, a new action, a new sentence with a different vibration, you are planting a different destiny. A destiny not determined by anyone else, but shaped by you. I want to thank you, because if you are listening this far, it means you are ready to look at yourself with honesty. You are not here just to learn. You are listening to become someone new, and that is something to be honored. You did not come here to be lectured. You came here to be reminded that you hold the key. Every program can be undone if you are willing to take responsibility for the beliefs you keep. The final question I want to leave with you in this part is, what program are you living under without even realizing it? And if you do not change it, can you accept passing it on to the next generation? If the answer is no, then today is the day you begin the rewriting process. It does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be honest. It only needs your presence. And the rest? Awareness will lead the way. The prison of the mind. You are not poor because of a lack of opportunity, but because you were programmed to live in lack. There are no bars, no chains, yet the prison of the mind silently holds millions of people captive for a lifetime. People go to work, earn a living, support their families, build their careers, but beneath it all, they are still living inside a programmed space where any idea that reaches beyond the average is immediately strangled by fear. This prison needs no guards because it was built from the very beliefs you thought were yours. But they are not. They are the product of the previous generation, of unconscious education, of a society that favors stability and institutionalizes mediocrity. And the most dangerous part is this: the prisoner does not know they are imprisoned. You are not poor because you are incapable. You are poor because your subconscious has been taught that wealth is foreign, dangerous, not meant for you. Every time you try to step beyond what is familiar, an invisible force pulls you back. These are pieces of belief you never questioned. You believe success is hard, money is risky, the rich are greedy, and stability is the goal. From these beliefs, you choose a way of living that is just safe enough to avoid judgment, humble enough to stay unnoticed, busy enough to avoid facing yourself. But these seemingly safe choices are the very bricks reinforcing the invisible wall around you. Each time you turn down an opportunity because you think it is not the right time, you teach your brain that you are not ready for expansion. Each time you stay silent when you should speak, you reinforce a smaller identity. And each time you feel guilty for wanting more, you are convincing yourself that having less is enough. This prison has a peculiar architecture. It does not lock the door, but it makes you believe that stepping out will bring punishment through failure, loss, or loneliness. So you stay. You create justifications. I lack experience. I have no foundation. The timing is not right. No one is there to support me. But look closely. These are not reasons. They are old addictions. Addiction to safety. Addiction to the familiar. Addiction to the role of the victim, because it asks nothing more than to continue living as you did yesterday. What you call reality is often just the result of repeating old thoughts long enough, thoughts programmed by a previous environment. And every time you think, I can't, what you are really doing is recalling what someone else once said about their own limits and mistaking it as your truth. Not because you agree with it, but because you have never actively challenged it. Here is the secret. You do not need evidence to change a belief. You only need to realize that the old belief no longer serves the person you are becoming, and from that awareness, you begin to release, quietly, without declarations. Simply by choosing, every day, to take one action that contradicts what you used to believe. If you once stayed silent, start speaking. If you once feared investing, start learning how to place value in yourself. If you once said you couldn't, stop saying it again. Your mind does not need replacing. It needs to be freed from the old program. And that program is not erased by reading more or listening more. It dissolves when you begin to live according to a new script. When you stand up, walk off the old path and say, I will no longer play this role. I no longer believe that I must ask permission to live fully. I no longer believe that I need to prove I am humble enough in order to deserve more. Change does not come from the outside. It begins the moment something breaks open inside you and you realize you have locked yourself in a room with an open door. And the only thing keeping you there is no one else but you. You are the one repeating the command lines each day. You are the one hitting the delay button every time opportunity knocks. You are the one choosing temporary comfort over true growth. The prison of the mind has no warden. It only needs one guard, and that is you, if you are not awake. But the moment you start asking questions, the walls begin to crack, and through those cracks, light enters. You do not need to break the wall. You just need to stop reinforcing it with your compromises. Escape does not need a door. It only needs you to pause, turn around and say, enough. I will not live another day in a cage built from the fears I inherited from others. You are not limited by reality. You are limited by the model you use to interpret that reality. And when the model changes, reality is no longer the same. That prison no longer exists, not because it was destroyed, but because you stopped believing it was real. And that is the moment you become truly free. The moment of awakening. When you realize you are the one holding the key to your own chains. There is a moment that no one warns you about. No drums announce it. No blinding light shines from outside. But if you truly listen, you will feel it clearly, like a knife cutting through your consciousness. It is the moment when you can no longer deceive yourself. No more excuses for delay. No more blaming circumstances for another day. And no more lulling yourself with the old story you have repeated in your mind for years. That is true awakening. And unlike what you might think, it does not come in moments of excitement, but in the weariness when you sit quietly, your gaze distant, and your mind stripped bare. It does not come to comfort, but to clear away all illusions. You may be sitting in your familiar room, where every corner speaks of the stable life you have worked hard to build. Yet, as if by strange coincidence, you realize you have been repeating the same cycle. Work, spend, worry, wait for an opportunity, and then continue the cycle. No breakthrough, no expansion, just a kind of survival called living. Then you realize no one is holding you captive. No one forced you to choose that job, spend that way, or delay that dream. You hold the key. And you were the one who hid it. It is not easy to accept that you alone are keeping everything you desire locked away. Because until now, you have been used to living a different script. A script where the world is harsh. Others have more advantages, and you must wait for the right moment. But there is no moment more suitable than now to realize that if you do not change from this moment, you will continue living in the old cycle for another 10 years. And no one is coming to rescue you. Not because they do not care, but because it is not their responsibility. When you realize this, a mask begins to fall. No more false comfort. No more hollow encouragement. Only a cold, clear truth remains. You chose to shrink. You chose silence. You chose to retreat each time a challenge appeared. And every choice has created the reality you live in. But this truth is not meant to make you blame yourself, but to empower you. Because if you locked yourself in chains, you are also the one who can remove them. No approval needed. No world change required. Just stop pretending you do not know you have a choice. We often confuse resignation with acceptance. Acceptance is the state of recognizing the truth and choosing a new action from that. Resignation is when you know everything is wrong but stay because you think you do not deserve better. And resignation is not a virtue. It is a silent betrayal of yourself. When you truly awaken, you begin to look back at every decision in life, not with judgment but with honest eyes. You no longer ask why this happened to me, but how did I choose to lead to this result? You stop saying I have no opportunity and ask how many opportunities you have refused out of fear of not being good enough. You stop blaming others and start facing the place where it all began. The unconscious beliefs you never examined. Awakening is not the moment you jump up and change your whole life. It begins more quietly. It is when you read a passage and cannot return to the old ways. When you hear a truth that shakes your heart and you cannot pretend you never heard it. When you see others doing what you once thought impossible and stop making excuses. All these things together create a bend in perception. And once you bend perception, you can bend reality. Do not wait for circumstances to force you to change. Do not wait for life to knock you down before you look up. Choose this moment, when you are still clear enough to see yourself and brave enough to act even if no one cheers. Because that is true freedom. Not financial freedom, not freedom of time, but inner freedom. The freedom to know you have the right to rewrite your entire story, and no one else has the right to write it for you. No course can unlock your life. Only absolute honesty with yourself can do that. And if you are ready to face what you have been avoiding, then it is time to step out of the prison. No one is holding you back. Only you remain, and the choice to continue pretending or to truly live. No one else. No more excuses. No more time to wait. This is the moment. Everything begins here. Conscious mastery is not a state you achieve when everything is stable. It is the starting point for the deepest transformations in life. As long as you live in the role of a victim, you remain shaped by external circumstances. You react instead of proactively choosing. You blame instead of taking action. And you exist as if every outcome in your life is a game of chance decided by others or by outside forces. But the truth is, no one holds the power to create your life except you. No one can reprogram how you think or behave unless you allow it to happen unconsciously. You cannot master what you refuse to take responsibility for, and the victim role is always the easiest way to evade all responsibility. It gives you reasons not to change. It grants you the right to be angry without needing solutions. But that right is cheap, and the price you pay is a lifetime placed in the hands of others. Mastery means you choose to look at the results you have and acknowledge that these are the outcomes of your beliefs, choices, and actions, whether conscious or unconscious. No excuses, no blaming. There is only one truth. If I created this, I can also create something different. Some may object that there are things in life beyond our control: accidents, loss, betrayal, poverty. All of these can happen unexpectedly, and that is true. But what you can always control is your response. And that response creates your inner reality. You can live your whole life bitter over one event, or you can use that event as the material for growth. No one forces you to suffer longer than you choose. Creators do not deny reality, but they refuse to live under the rule of old stories. They do not need the past to change. They only need the present to offer a new choice. What sets them apart is not luck, but honesty. They do not wear masks. They do not try to prove they are always right. They dare to admit mistakes. They dare to face the truth that they were once weak, once lost, once self-sabotaging. And from there, they rebuild. Quietly, without applause. Only persistent, silent action repeated long enough until a new version emerges. Victims wait for saviors. Creators become their own source of power. They do not ask how to get more. They ask how to become worthy of receiving more. They do not ask why everything is always difficult. They ask which patterns they are running that cause repetition. And they do not seek help from others first. They become their own helper through rigorous discipline and radical honesty. You cannot simultaneously blame and change. You must choose one. If you still see yourself in the old circumstances, it is because you have not stopped telling the old story. And that story always ends the same way. I cannot because of someone, something, or this moment. But if you want to step out, you must write a new ending. I cannot because I have not truly begun. Creators do not wait for the perfect moment. They start where they are, with imperfections, fears, and chaos. But they start. They do not wait for confidence to act. They act to build confidence. They do not wait to be flawless to become better. They use mistakes as foundations, not to repeat. And they do not need anyone's approval to live fully. Mastery is not a declaration. It is a decision repeated every day in every small choice. Choosing to rise when you want to quit. Choosing honesty when blaming is easy. Choosing action when everything is uncertain. And choosing kindness to yourself when no one else acknowledges you. Conscious mastery is when you know you cannot control everything, but you can always control yourself. And once you do that, your life ceases to be a series of reactions and becomes a design authored by you. Not perfect, just truly you. Not right immediately, but no longer living the old way. Because no one can live your life for you, and no one has the right to stop you from becoming the person you were born to be. Breaking the old version to be reborn as your true self. No rebirth can occur if you still cling to your old version. You cannot step into a new life carrying the baggage of the past. You cannot become the person you were born to be if you still fear losing the person you once were. Inner evolution is not gentle. It demands brutal honesty with yourself. It requires you to face everything that once protected you and then willingly shed it like a decayed shell. Because the old part cannot accompany the part of you that is growing. Limits that once had reasons to exist have now become prisons. Beliefs that once helped you survive are now suffocating you. And you know this well. You hesitate only because you are not ready to endure the pain once more. But what you do not realize is that you have already suffered silently. In the times you pretended to be okay, in the safe choices, in the dreams suppressed every time you convinced yourself to settle. Rebirth does not come from improving the old version. It comes from breaking it, looking at it with gratitude, then letting go without regret. And that is the hardest part. Because you are used to that mask, used to that identity. You have built your life around it, relationships, work, goals, all based on an outdated self. So when you begin dismantling it, the whole system around you will shake. Some will leave, some will oppose. Panic will rise as if you are losing yourself. But that is the right sign. No rebirth happens without chaos. No change comes without trading familiarity. Because to become your true self, you must courageously lose what no longer belongs to you. It is a lonely journey, but never empty. Because inside you is always a small, subtle, persistent voice guiding the way. A voice that does not shout, manipulate, or force. It is a silent presence, patiently waiting for you to return. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. A space where you do not need to perform, prove, or hide your fears. You only need to breathe, listen, and be honest. When you begin to return there, you will feel clarity, a powerful silence, not because you have solved all problems, but because you no longer run from yourself. And then, you will see that everything you once sought, acceptance, clarity, freedom, was never outside. It has been inside you, waiting for you to dust it off and see. Rebirth is not starting over. It is starting truly. It is the first time you live without relying on anyone else to feel worthy. The first time you act not out of fear, but out of loyalty to your true self. And the first time you dare to stand alone without loneliness, because you have found yourself again. No one can guide you through this phase, because no one can live the sacred loneliness of transformation for you. There will be times of confusion, doubt, and fatigue. Days when you want to return to the old version simply because it is easier. But if you persist patiently, you will see the impossible slowly become possible. You will find yourself speaking what you once dared not say, doing what you once thought beyond reach, and gradually, a new you is born not from outside, but from deep within your consciousness. That is the you the world awaits, not the edited you, not the approved you, but the you who has nothing left to hide. And when you live from that place, all relationships, work, choices will change not out of need to be fulfilled, but from inherent wholeness. You do not need to prove you are worthy. You only need to remember that you always have been. And everything you attract from that place comes without sacrificing your truth. That is true freedom. Not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to be yourself in every circumstance. Rebirth is stepping through the fear of loss to reclaim what was never lost. And you do not need to wait any longer. You do not need to be perfect to begin. You only need the courage to let go of the old and quietly return to the deepest, truest, unshakable part within you. There, all answers already exist. There, you no longer seek. You only need to remember and live as if you have always been yourself from the start. The cosmic test, the rigorous purification of the golden trial. When you first step away from your old self to embody your true essence, you will not be welcomed with applause. Instead, you will be tested. Events will unfold, setbacks will arise, situations will challenge you to the point of doubting your own journey. Do not rush into confusion. That is not a sign you have gone the wrong way. That is precisely the golden test the universe has prepared for you, because only genuine gold can withstand the intensity of fire. Only a steadfast soul can move through life's turbulence without losing its way. Each time you choose authenticity, your energy shifts, and this shift inevitably collides with everything old around you. Old relationships will begin to feel restrictive. Your former job might no longer align. Choices that once brought safety now feel suffocating. This is when the universe delivers its first examination. Are you brave enough to remain true to yourself, even as everything around you seems to resist? Can you refuse to justify, refuse to compromise, refuse to retreat into pleasing others? This harsh purification is not punishment, it is refinement. It strips away each layer of pretense, old beliefs, and illusions about yourself. You will feel loss, but it's only the shedding of what no longer serves your growth. When you pass through this phase, what remains is your genuine self, no more straining, no more performing, no more comparing. You embody a clarity untouched by external disturbances, a clarity no outer circumstance can ever remove from you. Some may ask, how do I know it's a test and not merely failure? The answer lies in your quality within adversity. If you fall into complaining, blaming, or avoidance, you are standing outside the lesson. But if you pause, listen, and observe, you will realize the test always strikes precisely where you have been weakest. It places you in situations where you're compelled to choose differently, react differently, and stand firmly as someone who now truly knows who you are. The universe does not care about how much you accomplish. It cares whether you truly embody what you proclaim. Every test has one purpose: to confirm you will never revert to victimhood. You no longer beg for ease. You no longer bargain with truth. You no longer need validation from the crowd to sense your worth. And if you can hold steady during the toughest moments, you pass not merely through external circumstances, but beyond your former inner limitations. Purification is how the universe returns you to yourself, like a rushing river clearing away debris, allowing the pure water beneath to emerge. But you must stand ready in that current without resistance. Do not cling to what is leaving. Let it go as part of the natural process. You do not need to hold on to what no longer matches your new frequency. Trust that if you remain true to yourself, everything aligned with your authentic self will arrive. Passing the test doesn't mean being perfect. It only means staying aware, knowing you are being refined. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" ask, "What part of me is being purified? What do I need to release? How must I redefine myself to become worthy of what is coming?" There will be times you feel tired, moments you want to stop. But remember, you do not need speed. You only need alignment. One honest step is more powerful than 100 steps that flatter reality. Each choice you make under pressure declares to the universe you are ready. And once you pass through the golden trial, everything shifts not by your force, not by your control. Life naturally rearranges itself to match who you've become. So do not fear the shaking. Do not panic as things start to break apart. Only the false can crumble. What is real remains. Your task is to stay unwavering, authentic, loyal to your innermost essence. That is how you navigate this test, not by rigid effort, but by living steady presence. One day, you will look back and clearly see all that once threatened to break you was simply part of your refinement process. An essential journey transforming you into someone who can no longer be shaken, a soul who has experienced, endured, and emerged unbreakable like pure gold from the fire. You no longer seek recognition. You simply embrace the truth of living authentically as yourself. Self-respect determines how money responds to you. Money does not respond merely to action. It responds to frequency. And that frequency originates directly from how you treat yourself. Self-respect is not something you announce verbally. Rather, it is revealed in your decisions, your boundaries, your use of time, and how you value your own energy in every situation. When you undervalue yourself, the universe mirrors this back to you through experiences of lack, unworthy relationships, and especially financial blockage, because you are broadcasting the signal that you do not truly believe you deserve more. Money is neutral energy, yet it is profoundly intelligent. It does not arrive because you need it. It arrives when you become the person who matches the respect it demands. If you constantly overwork but hesitate to ask for fair compensation, that is a form of disrespect towards yourself. If you remain in environments where your value is consistently diminished, yet you silently endure, this sends the universe a clear signal. You accept this as your standard of living. And money, like an intuitive guest, only enters spaces that welcome it respectfully, not those begging desperately for its presence. You cannot expect money to flow if each time you spend it, you feel guilty. You cannot expect it to return if you use it to compensate for a feeling of personal inadequacy. Each financial decision you make directly reflects your level of self-respect. Those who respect themselves spend consciously not to impress others, but to authentically express themselves. They invest in themselves not to chase superficial images, but because they believe that they are worthy assets deserving of upgrades. They refuse opportunities that compromise their core values because they clearly understand this truth. Any money that costs your internal truth is far too expensive. Self-respect also becomes apparent in how you respond during financial hardship. Those lacking self-respect frequently spiral into panic, blame, resentment, or frantic actions simply to escape quickly. By contrast, those who respect themselves will pause, look reality straight in the eye, and ask themselves, what within me created this situation? What lesson about value, boundaries, or awareness am I being invited to learn? And then they act from clarity rather than fear. That distinction separates individuals stuck in endless cycles of poverty from those who steadily lay the foundation for lasting prosperity. Money appreciates clarity. It gravitates toward people who know exactly what they desire, who confidently say no to misaligned opportunities, who respect both their own efforts and those of others. When you live in this way, you no longer need to chase money. You become a natural magnet, attracting financial abundance effortlessly as the direct outcome of a correctly aligned inner self. And interestingly enough, when you truly respect yourself, you cease obsessing about money altogether because you recognize clearly money is merely an outward reflection of your inner wealth. You become wealthy inside first, and money naturally follows. If you want to gauge your current level of self-respect, simply look at how you use your three most valuable resources: your time, your energy, and your money. Are you investing them in activities and choices that nourish and uplift you? Or are you distributing them carelessly just to sustain an image? Are you assigning your value from within, or waiting for external validation before daring to move forward? These questions are not designed to judge, but rather to illuminate. Because from the moment you recognize truth clearly, you possess the power to completely transform your financial ecosystem. Start with the smallest actions. Stop criticizing yourself harshly when you experience setbacks. Stop apologizing for choosing what aligns with your heart. Stop delaying your personal growth because you believe you are not yet good enough. These seemingly minor behaviors are violations of your own dignity. And when you shift the way you speak to yourself, the way you rise after setbacks, the way you invest in your growth, you'll notice money responding differently. It comes more readily, it stays longer, and it serves higher, nobler purposes. Sustainable wealth never happens by accident. It is the inevitable outcome of a clear identity, fiercely upheld values, and a mindful presence in every choice. When you truly know who you are and treat yourself as a treasure, you no longer need to shout to be heard or wave your arms to be noticed. Your presence itself is a statement, and money, like a river intelligently choosing its course, flows naturally toward those prepared to welcome it with dignity, clarity, and authentic self-respect. From victim and judge to master of your money. You cannot become a master of money if you continue living as a victim or a judge. The victim always feels deprived of opportunities, constantly controlled by circumstances, forever perceiving scarcity as an injustice. The judge, on the other hand, positions themselves in perpetual opposition, always criticizing the wealthy, condemning the system, believing deeply that if they lack wealth, it must be because someone else unfairly took their share. Both these mindsets originate from the same fundamental root: separation from personal power. And when you live within this separation, you cease being the creator of your finances and become merely reactive to them. A victim looks at their account balance and feels worthless. They believe that without money they cannot act, cannot change, cannot fully live their potential. But this is an illusion born from limiting beliefs. Money has never determined your value. Rather, it is your internal value that creates money. When you believe you cannot move forward without sufficient resources, you hand your power to an external factor, thus further tightening your own chains. The judge, conversely, uses money as a tool to maintain separation. They wear poverty as a badge of moral superiority, viewing wealth as synonymous with greed, dishonesty, or injustice. They fail to see that their own judgments push prosperity further away, because you cannot attract what you condemn. You cannot establish an authentic, pure relationship with money while harboring contempt toward it. The turning point occurs only when you step away from both roles. When you abandon the narrative of "I never had opportunities" and instead ask, "What opportunities have I missed because I wasn't ready?" When you stop saying, "The wealthy are despicable," and instead question, "Do I have enough integrity to hold wealth and still live aligned with my core values?" These new questions not only shift how you perceive money, they also fundamentally reshape the person you are becoming. Mastering money isn't about how much you have in your wallet. It's about whether you can consciously manage your beliefs, emotions, and actions regarding money. Those who truly master money don't feel the need to boast. They don't chase external validation or superficial appearances. They remain quiet, yet clear, simple, yet grounded, no longer seeing money as something external to be conquered, but rather as an internal flow of energy to be aligned. They understand that money is an extension of their self-care. They spend in ways that reflect their value, not to mask insecurity or lack. They earn money naturally, as a consequence of living aligned with their authentic purpose. They invest in what matters deeply rather than dispersing resources into distractions. And above all, they take full responsibility for every financial decision they make. No blaming, no avoidance, no excuses. If you find yourself still occupying the roles of victim or judge, do not condemn yourself. Simply becoming aware is already a significant step forward. Observe, then make a new decision. Each time you refuse to retell an old story, you detach yourself from your past. Each moment you choose conscious action instead of emotional reaction. You reshape your entire relationship with money. Over time, as this pattern becomes consistent, you will no longer demand wealth. You will naturally embody someone who already lives it. Mastering money also involves learning to respect it, not idolizing it, yet never trivializing it. You notice a profound difference when you start tracking your spending, not from anxiety, but out of respect. When you postpone an unnecessary purchase, not out of fear of scarcity, but because you honor your commitment to yourself, these seemingly minor decisions steadily construct a new identity, one who no longer lives in reaction, but in conscious choice. Money is not the ultimate destination. It is simply a tool. But if you do not know who you are when you have it, you will always feel lost. To master money is to first master yourself. When you cease being a victim, you no longer need rescuing. When you stop being a judge, you no longer need to diminish others to lift yourself. You simply stand centered, fully awake, fully aware of your actions, fully accountable for every outcome. From this vantage point, you not only transform your finances, you profoundly reshape your entire relationship with life. And money, like a truthful mirror, can only reflect the exact frequency you radiate. Masters of money do not seek certainty from external circumstances. They generate it from within. They do not demand money to feel sufficient. They allow inner sufficiency to guide outer abundance. That is true power. And that is true freedom. Microenergy shifts your body and voice as magnetic frequencies for financial flow. Money does not respond merely to action. It responds to your subtle vibrations. You attract money not only through strategy, but also through the subtle microenergy states within your own body. What you think might remain hidden, but what you feel continuously broadcasts a vibration. The wondrous and equally dangerous truth is that vibration always surpasses words in power. Even if you claim you believe in abundance, if your body is tense, your voice is filled with anxiety, or your breath carries fear, you are still emitting signals of scarcity to the universe. Each gesture, posture, expression, and sound you release is an invisible declaration of who you truly are. The way you walk reveals whether you're genuinely confident or merely forcing an appearance. How you say hello or thank you, the tone you use when speaking about your work, even how you explain your failures, all carry frequencies that either build or dismantle the financial energy field around you. Money doesn't come because you say the right things. It comes because you genuinely embody a frequency resonant with its presence. Your body holds your most deeply ingrained beliefs. You may have changed your rational understanding, but if your body still contracts when money is discussed, if you enter a defensive state whenever investments are mentioned, or if you still feel guilty when spending a significant sum, then your deeper subconscious remains aligned with scarcity. This explains why many people study countless financial books, attend numerous courses, create multiple strategies, and yet fail to sustain financial stability. They're attempting to alter external circumstances without touching the internal vibrations that truly govern financial flow. Your breath is the first bridge to access this subtle energy. Someone who genuinely masters their financial energy never breathes shallowly. They do not pant or hold their breath in moments of stress. They breathe deeply, calmly, and fully, mirroring exactly how they approach life. Their breath sends out a signal saying, "I lack nothing. I fear nothing. I have no hurry to prove myself." That grounded presence creates an energy field that dissolves financial anxiety and opens space for financial intuition to operate clearly. Next is your voice. Have you ever noticed that individuals who effortlessly attract financial abundance speak clearly, steadily, and powerfully? They don't speak quickly to impress others, nor do they raise their voices to dominate. They don't fill silence with unnecessary words to seek agreement. Their voice is the result of internal alignment, an echo of a well-organized internal state. When they speak, others don't just listen, they feel an invisible wave spreading, lending their words magnetic attraction. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Every morning when you awaken, Your body broadcasts signals long before you take any action. Notice how you get out of bed, the energy you bring into your workspace, and the clarity or uncertainty in your gaze. All these are subtle vibrations. If you begin to consciously realign even the smallest expressions, the way you straighten your back when sitting, the way you firmly plant your feet on the floor, how you look at others, how you nod in agreement, how you speak about yourself, you're gradually reconstructing your entire financial energy field at the microscopic level. No significant change can happen without small, intentional shifts. Microenergy is the underlying soundtrack the universe hears from you daily. Don't let it become random background noise. Consciously create every frequency you desire to embody. When you act as someone who already feels abundant, speak as someone who knows their worth clearly, breathe as someone who holds no more fear, and show up as someone fully aware of who you are, money arrives not merely as an opportunity, but as the natural response to a fully restructured identity. True prosperity does not dwell in your bank account. It lives in the vibrational state you sustain each moment. And that state isn't abstract. It begins simply with how you stand when talking to others, how you raise your head when facing challenges, how you place your hand over your heart when reaffirming your commitment to yourself. These seemingly unrelated actions are, in fact, foundational stones of lasting financial stability. Large-scale transformation begins with small but purposeful adjustments. Never underestimate the energy your body broadcasts. Never trivialize your voice as merely a simple tool. These are the unspoken languages money interprets daily. Once you master them, you'll no longer need to shout to be heard, nor show off to be seen. Your presence itself becomes the message, a clear frequency, a vibrant field of magnetism opening the way for prosperity to return effortlessly into your life. Investment mindset rather than protection mindset. Protecting what you already have is instinctive. Yet, to build lasting wealth, you must rise above that instinct and embrace a higher state of consciousness, an investment mindset. A mindset focused solely on protection keeps you exactly where you are, whereas an investment mindset opens doors to possibilities that have never existed before. This crucial difference isn't determined by how much money you currently possess, but rather by the internal state from which you operate. Those with a protective mindset ask, "How do I avoid loss?" Those with an investment mindset ask, "How can I grow more deeply, more fully, and sustainably?" These two questions inevitably create two entirely different realities. A protective mindset often emerges from fear, fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of being proven wrong. Consequently, you clutch tightly onto what you already possess, unwilling to change, expand, or explore the new. Your mind becomes perpetually defensive, viewing every opportunity through a lens of potential risk. You delay important decisions, convincing yourself conditions aren't safe enough yet. Ironically, this very hesitation ends up costing you far more than the risks you're avoiding. By contrast, an investment-oriented individual is driven not by fear, but by vision. They understand clearly that growth always involves trade-offs. Yet they do not call this loss. They call it the cost of expansion. They willingly invest in knowledge, ecosystems, tools, and support, not due to extravagant spending, but because they know every genuine investment eventually returns manifold, provided it's guided by conscious intention. A protective mindset causes you to shrink. An investment mindset inspires you to expand. When protecting, you fixate anxiously upon each outgoing penny, hesitating, overanalyzing, calculating excessively. But you cannot control the game by sitting on the sidelines endlessly analyzing. Only when you genuinely participate, truly commit, will you gather sufficient real-world feedback to refine your strategies. And that participation only occurs when you dare to invest. Refusal to invest equates to refusing growth. And no growth occurs without elements of risk. Yet the real risk isn't the money spent, it's staying stuck as the same outdated version of yourself, running on obsolete knowledge and systems. The investment mindset transcends mere financial strategy. It's your very perspective toward life. It's choosing to act from a sense of abundance rather than reacting from scarcity. Those with an investment mindset don't merely spend money on material goods. They invest to upgrade themselves. They put money into experiences that broaden their vision, clarify their thinking, and align their lives with authenticity. They discern clearly between liabilities and intangible assets. A single powerful book, the right training program, or an empowering community can catalyze decades of progress when leveraged from a mature state of consciousness. They look beyond price tags toward transformational value. You cannot demand breakthrough results without making fundamentally different investments. The price you avoid today may multiply tomorrow if you fail to grow. Refusing to invest is a subtle form of procrastination, disguised cleverly as caution. Many spend their entire lives in such cautiousness, never escaping familiar territory. And familiar territory is precisely where poverty perpetuates itself behind the false comfort of imagined security. An investment mindset also honors time. You realize each passing minute is an irreplaceable asset. If you take 5 years to learn something that could be mastered in 3 months, you've squandered your life on needless protection. Investment-minded individuals don't seek the easy path, they seek effectiveness. And effectiveness results from conscious, intentional choice, not from avoidance or delay. If hesitation still holds you back, honestly ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What limiting belief prevents me from stepping forward? And does that belief still serve the person I desire to become? Financial freedom isn't attained through mechanical penny pinching, but rather through a maturity that clearly recognizes when to hold tight and when to invest generously, exchanging money for a higher version of oneself. The investment mindset also signifies deep self-trust. You trust your ability to transform what you learn into tangible outcomes. You believe that with the right tools and the right environment, you can achieve things you've never done before. This belief is the true foundation of wealth. Money doesn't create trust. Your trust in yourself attracts money. Therefore, from today onward, stop asking, "Is this worth it?" And instead ask, "Am I ready to step into my next level self?" If the answer is yes, investing is no longer just an option. It becomes the natural expression of someone who's consciously decided never to live as before. And that marks the authentic beginning of every lasting transformation. Breaking free from the old operating system, shifting from defensive programming to creative programming. Have you ever stopped to wonder how many decisions in your life were not true choices, but rather the result of subconscious programming? Can you confidently say your actions today are not dictated by outdated mental software installed since childhood? And if you discovered this to be true, would you be brave enough to dismantle it even if it's something you previously identified as yourself? Thank you for being here and willing to look honestly at this truth. Many people are not living from creative capacity, but merely reacting defensively to life, driven by pre-existing programs from their past. We've been taught to seek security, stability, and doing it right, and all these things erect invisible walls within our minds, cutting us off from the one thing that truly leads to authentic prosperity, the ability to create new realities from within. Defensive programming makes you act only after you've analyzed all possible risks. It conditions you to act only when you have permission from society, from others, or from established thinking models. It convinces you that you need a secure system, a foolproof plan, and a precedent set by someone else before you can start. Worst of all, it convinces you that creativity is a luxury, something you're not entitled to, that you're not qualified to follow your intuition. But creativity is not a privilege reserved solely for artists or geniuses. Creativity is the core human capacity when living in alignment with your true essence. It emerges when you cease reacting to the world and instead shape it through your own unique ideas, actions, and vibrations. People operating from creative programming never ask, "Am I allowed?" Instead, they ask, "Does this resonate with who I am becoming?" They don't imitate, they innovate. To transition from a defensive operating system to a creative one, you must willingly remove beliefs that once ensured survival but no longer serve growth. Beliefs such as "don't stand out too much," "follow the crowd," "avoid risk," or "don't trust yourself too much" are outdated software running in your mental system. If left unchanged, you'll always feel mysteriously limited, regardless of your efforts. Dismantling your old operating system isn't pleasant. You're not just discarding ineffective methods. You're facing yourself at a previously unactivated potential. It might leave you feeling empty, disoriented, confused. But remember, these are signs of genuine renewal. If you remain steadfast during this uncomfortable phase, a new way of living will open up a life no longer governed by fear, but guided by vision. Those living from creative consciousness don't wait for perfection to begin. They begin to discover what truly matters. They don't need external validation to act, as their inner clarity provides sufficient guidance. Interestingly, when you act from a creative space, the world responds with opportunities beyond any plan, with abundance outside conventional financial models, and with connections beyond imagination. Creative programming doesn't mean recklessness. It is the deep ability to listen to intuition and transform it into clear, meaningful action. It's a state of awareness guiding each choice rather than habitually reacting. It's the tranquility of sitting in silence and recognizing you're steering your life with an internal power no one else can access. You cannot enter a new chapter of your life using the old operating system. Every creative idea requires new frameworks. Every evolved version of you requires a new language. Every authentic transformation demands decisive abandonment, letting go of old ways of thinking, old emotional patterns, and outdated decision-making processes. If you desire genuine change in your life, don't merely alter your strategies. Change your entire operating system. Instead of just finding ways to do better, learn how to do differently. And to do differently, you must become different not by denying the past, but by refusing to allow the past to program your present. You're being called to live from pure creative energy, free from anyone else's limitations. Once you operate from creative programming, nothing remains impossible. You stop merely living within your current reality. Instead, you continuously rewrite your next reality from within. That is true power. It has always been available to you as long as you possess the courage to shed the layers of outdated defense and step fully into your creative truth. Your relationship with money reflects your self-worth. Your relationship with money is never accidental. It's an honest mirror reflecting precisely how you perceive yourself. It is not about how much you earn, but about how you feel regarding your own worth every time you accept or reject money. Money is not merely material, it's energy responding directly to your internal sense of self-worth. If you perceive yourself as small, unworthy, or inadequate, then even when opportunity arrives, you will unconsciously let it pass by. And if you live with feelings of guilt or shame around wealth, you will inevitably create a reality in which money arrives only to leave again. People with low self-worth often assume others deserve more. They defer opportunities, avoid leadership roles, and constantly diminish their own value through words and actions. In their internal world, wealth feels distant and luxurious, something not meant for someone like them. They might be skilled, diligent, or kind, but without a genuine recognition of their inherent worth, none of these qualities can transform into sustainable financial flow. Money does not linger where self-respect is absent. Conversely, those with healthy self-worth feel no need to prove anything. They neither flaunt nor seek constant validation because they already recognize deep within themselves that they are deserving. This quiet sense of deservedness creates a powerful magnetic field around them. When you enter a room carrying the presence of someone who genuinely knows their worth, you don't need to say much to make an impact. Money, Opportunities and people alike are naturally drawn towards such a clear and grounded energy field. Self-worth does not come from degrees, achievements, or external praise. Self-worth emerges when you look in the mirror each day knowing you are living authentically, making choices for your growth, and no longer compromising in ways that diminish you. It is the ability to stand firm in the midst of judgment and rejection, anchored deeply in your own internal value, unaffected by others' opinions. Money serves as a test of self-worth. When opportunities appear, do you possess the courage to accept them? When clients propose a payment lower than your genuine value, are you clear enough to decline? When life challenges you with a significant investment, do you trust yourself as worthy enough to step into that higher level? These seemingly minor moments become turning points in your destiny. As you're not just engaging with money, you're interacting deeply with your own identity. If you continually find yourself feeling just short, needing just a little more effort, always sensing not quite enough, you may be operating from an inner void. This emptiness cannot be filled by money. It can only be healed by acknowledging that you have always been inherently worthy. Not once you become perfect, not after success, but precisely in your authentic, imperfect state right now. From this inner acknowledgement, every action you take carries genuine power. When you price your products, you're not merely valuing your work, you're valuing yourself. When you decline opportunities misaligned with your core standards, you're sending a message to the universe that you know what you want and deserve better. When you invest in yourself, you reinforce to your subconscious mind that you are your own most valuable asset. Everyone has an invisible relationship with money, one programmed deeply into the subconscious through past experiences, how they were treated, recognized, and loved. If you grew up in an environment where nobody truly believed in your potential, it's easy to carry that doubt into the world. But the good news is this: you can rewrite your agreement with yourself. You can choose to look back and forgive your past, not to erase it, but to prevent it from programming your present any longer. Money will never solve issues of self-worth, but authentic self-worth solves numerous financial problems. When you live from inner fullness, you do not seek money as validation. You attract it naturally as a manifestation of someone who knows how to receive, how to give, and how to create lasting value. Your relationship with money begins with your relationship to yourself. Every internal healing generates external responses. Every genuine act of self-worth results in a free-flowing current. Once you stop seeking validation from others' eyes, you realize money was never truly the issue. The real issue was your inability to recognize your own worth and your capability to create abundance. From the moment you see yourself clearly and respectfully, everything shifts. It marks the beginning of a new chapter, one in which money no longer needs chasing but comes naturally to you, because you have become someone deeply deserving of receiving it. Redefining humility, not shrinking, but expanding from a pure inner self. Humility is not about shrinking yourself so that others will accept you. It's not about remaining silent for fear of rejection or avoiding the spotlight due to fear of judgment. True humility does not come from fearful retreat. It arises from an inner self cleansed of the need to prove anything. It's a state where you don't have to demonstrate your humility, simply because you no longer cling to what others think of you. Many confuse humility with self-diminishment. They mistakenly believe that calling themselves less than, pretending not to know, or constantly stepping back are signs of noble character. Yet this false humility is just ego in disguise, wrapped neatly in moral clothing. Deep within this behavior remains a longing to be praised, recognized, and applauded for being humble. True humility does not reside in external actions. It is an inner expansion, a silent knowing that you are neither superior nor inferior to anyone else. You are simply yourself, clear, authentic, and unadorned. Those genuinely humble have no trouble stepping into the spotlight or quietly stepping aside. They do what must be done, aligned completely with their true nature, not seeking praise nor avoiding criticism. Their presence carries weight without overshadowing anyone. They speak when needed, never excessively. They willingly learn from everyone, yet never compromise their core principles. Real humility emerges when you recognize your worth does not derive from being better than others, but from the harmony between your words, actions, and inner essence. You do not need to elevate yourself to feel enough, nor diminish yourself to feel loved. You simply live aligned with your authentic energy and allow life to respond to that purity with fitting opportunities. Those living from genuine humility wear no masks. They neither hide weaknesses nor flaunt strengths. They can softly apologize yet firmly decline when necessary. They don't wait for invitations to step forward, nor do they push others aside to be seen, because internally, their place has always existed, something no one can grant or take away. To attain true humility, you must journey through layers of shedding, removing accumulated self-doubt from years of rejection, stripping away arrogance erected as armor for past wounds, releasing even the desire to be labeled as humble. As long as you crave praise for your humility, you haven't genuinely embodied it. True humility never requires naming, it is simply felt. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. When you reconnect with that inner space, you realize that everything has always been sufficient. You don't have to exaggerate nor shrink yourself. You just need to live authentically. From that authenticity, your words gain strength without being loud. Your presence influences without being flashy. And as you move through life, you leave behind resonance rather than impressions. In a noisy world, the truly humble don't rush to insert their opinions. They listen deeply enough to grasp the meaning behind words. They act with enough awareness not to be swept away by immediate reactions. They don't let ego lead. They allow inner truth to speak. And that makes them naturally trustworthy, relatable, and genuinely respected. When truly humble, you no longer feel compelled to prove your intelligence, success, or correctness. You allow others to hold differing opinions without needing to challenge or correct them. You trust life to teach without lecturing anyone. You see no opponents, only fellow travelers on their unique journeys. Therefore, you neither feel threatened by another's success nor need to protect your own position. Humility doesn't weaken you. Paradoxically, it makes you strong in ways the world cannot predict. It grants you freedom from the burden of needing to be better than. It releases energy previously wasted on unnecessary competition. It makes you gentle yet never invisible, steadfast yet never rigid, clear yet never imposing. You don't need to shrink yourself to appear virtuous. Instead, expand from within, from a pure soul and an ego softened into quietness. That's when you're truly humble, not for anyone else, not for any purpose, but simply because you've become someone who no longer needs to assert themselves. At that moment, you wield your greatest influence not by overwhelming others, but by quietly touching the deepest part of them. That is the silent beauty of genuine humility, a quiet state, unembellished, needing no labels, yet leaving profound feelings wherever you go. Breaking the generational chain, healing your family's financial legacy. You are not simply living your own financial story. You are immersed in the energetic field of your entire family system. Fears, beliefs, habits, and reactions toward money have been quietly passed down through generations, often not through words, but through unspoken frequencies. These come in familiar phrases like "don't dream too big," "save every penny," or "money doesn't grow on trees." They manifest as guilt whenever you spend on yourself, as self-doubt about your worth, or subtle suspicion towards successful people. These emotional blueprints did not originate from you, yet they operate invisibly inside you as a hidden map you unknowingly follow. Many strive to earn money through endless effort, yet constantly feel as though they're swimming upstream. They invest in new skills, learn countless strategies, and work tirelessly, but the financial flow remains stubbornly stuck. The core reason lies in their unresolved relationship with money, a subconscious inheritance rooted deeply in family experiences. As a child, you couldn't differentiate your own truth from your parents' experiences. If your parents struggled financially, faced betrayal, lived in scarcity, or endured debt's heavy burden, you may unknowingly have stored all these fears as your own. Have you ever noticed yourself repeating the financial patterns of someone in your family? Perhaps you carry your father's stress every time money is mentioned, or replicate your mother's self-sacrifice, never allowing yourself pleasure. Perhaps you've chosen the opposite path, spending recklessly just to rebel against past feelings of control. Either way, you're still reacting to your family's past instead of creating an empowered, new present. Healing your relationship with money isn't simply about managing your finances better. It's a profoundly spiritual journey. It begins with the brave acknowledgement that many of your beliefs are not truly yours. They're emotional inheritances from your lineage. You have the power to stop passing this cycle forward. As you heal, you're not only liberating yourself, you're opening a new energetic space for future generations. This healing does not require you to blame or reject your parents. Quite the opposite, it begins with gratitude. They did the best they could with the understanding and resources available to them. But you no longer need to carry their fears. You have the power to choose differently. You can rewrite your financial script from a place of awareness rather than inherited wounds. Begin by writing down the familiar family phrases around money you heard growing up. Then, deeply examine the emotions attached. Are they rooted in fear, guilt, or shame? Next, consciously rewrite these beliefs from a new perspective. Instead of believing money is the root of all evil, affirm money is a wonderful tool for creating value. Instead of I'll never be good enough to earn a lot, replace it with I am continually expanding my ability to receive abundance. This process requires honesty and patience. At times, you might feel you're betraying family tradition. Yet, understand you are not betraying, you're healing. You are not denying your roots, you're raising the energetic frequency of your entire lineage. Every conscious step you take now becomes a stepping stone, making the path easier for those who come after. You don't need to convince anyone to change. Simply living differently is enough. Your new energetic presence creates space for others to choose differently themselves. Once you recognize you no longer need to carry your mother's fears, your father's anxieties, or your grandmother's quiet sacrifices, you will begin breathing easier. You'll stop feeling guilty for earning more money. You'll no longer believe suffering is necessary to deserve abundance. You'll realize prosperity is a natural state, not a prize for the fortunate, but a reflection of your inner alignment. And then money begins to flow effortlessly, not through struggle or conflict, but with ease and grace. Because you're no longer fighting against yourself, you've released outdated energetic layers and established a fresh frequency where money becomes not a problem, but a respectful companion. This companion honors you as you've honored your family's history, lovingly rewriting it with clarity and compassion. Healing your financial legacy is a profound gift, not just to yourself, but to your ancestors and descendants alike. That is true abundance, not just numbers, but spiritual freedom. It's creating a reality where no one must ever again live in fear because of money. At that moment, you'll know you've accomplished something your ancestors never had the chance to do. You've liberated your entire lineage by consciously stepping into the light. Courageous action. The only thing standing between you and financial freedom isn't knowledge, it's courage. Not everyone who possesses knowledge becomes wealthy. Not everyone who understands the law of attraction knows how to harness it. And not everyone who reads hundreds of personal development books achieves true financial freedom. Because the real obstacle isn't knowing what to do, it is having the courage to actually do it. The world does not lack intelligent people. It lacks people brave enough to step outside their comfort zones, act in the face of fear, and take absolute responsibility for their outcomes. You already know what you must do. You've felt it within yourself for a long time, but you've been delaying it because you're afraid. Afraid of making mistakes, afraid of rejection, afraid of failure. And this fear disguises itself cleverly in endless rationalizations. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I still need to learn more. Yet, in truth, you do not lack capability. What you really lack is one brutally honest moment with yourself, facing a simple question directly. If I don't start now, when exactly will I ever begin? There is no perfect time to act. There is only the moment you stop making excuses. Financial freedom doesn't come from more prayers. It comes from consistent, determined, unyielding action without waiting for inspiration or approval. You must find the courage to confront the old self within you, the part craving security and guarantees. But the reality is, no one can guarantee your success. Only you can create it through faith and discipline. Courage does not mean you're without fear. It means taking action even while trembling. It means sending the email despite inner doubts, investing even when nobody yet believes in you, standing back up even after setbacks. And ultimately, courage is choosing to love life deeply, even when you don't yet have everything you desire. Financial freedom isn't for those who seek comfort. It's for those willing to sacrifice comfort to attain authentic freedom. When you act with clarity of heart and disciplined mind, you begin creating a new reality, a reality in which money responds to commitment rather than empty promises, a reality in which you no longer rely on luck but consciously plant seeds every single day. Small, yet consistent. Simple, yet unwavering. And this is precisely what makes the difference. No one can live your life for you. No one can take action in your place. No one else can assume responsibility for you. And the beautiful truth is, you don't need anyone else to. Everything is already within you. The capabilities, resources, ideas, intuition, and courage. They're all waiting to be summoned by your decisive action in this present moment. If you have listened this far, I believe you are extraordinary. You are someone mature enough to embrace truth. The truth that the journey ahead may not be easy, but is entirely worth it. The truth that instead of waiting for miracles, you become the miracle. The truth that instead of chasing after money, you become someone money naturally wishes to accompany. From here onward, the journey is no longer just about money. It becomes a profound journey back to yourself, transcending all facades, prejudices, wounds, and fears to live aligned with your inner calling. This calling has always been present, quiet yet powerful, unhurried yet patient. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a sacred space you continuously return to. Thank you deeply for accompanying me to the end of this journey. Every moment you've spent reflecting and listening marks a giant step toward becoming the best possible version of yourself. I want you to realize that simply by beginning, you've already conquered fear. Don't wait for another sign. You are the sign. You need no further permission. Life itself has already chosen you. Act now. Not because you are certain you'll succeed, but because you're certain you no longer wish to live in doubt. Act now. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're exhausted from continually asking the wrong questions. Act now, because this is your life, and no one else can live it for you. I'll see you again on the journeys that follow, where we no longer merely talk about change, but fully embody that change, moment by moment.